I hope we make sufficient progress towards the path of growth, innovation, and progress again. Before I start, let me first thank from the bottom of my heart on behalf of Herald all the speakers who've taken time off from their schedules to be here from different parts of the country. Not many of them, I suppose, knew or know what Herald is. Some of them do. But I think most of them here came for the big idea that we hope we put forth. The idea of change and innovation, but more importantly, the idea of relooking at ourselves and planning from now onwards for the next 25, 30 years. Our rapporteurs are taking down extensive notes and videographing everything so that we ensure that the learnings from today are properly, duly recorded and deliberated, and we have a white paper committee which is going to deliberate on all this and present a proper action plan and a white paper to the government of Goa to take Goa forward in all these areas. And we will be consistently there as a friend and a watchdog to see that this takes place.
Now today here we would gather knowledge across the summit. But it's up to you and us to apply it in our day-to-day life, in the industries we are talking about, so that we become more powerful. Tomorrow's generation becomes more powerful.
The industry, the academia, the government, as well as the most important pillar, that's the media. If the media doesn't talk about the successes, and if the media doesn't support the failures, then we are losing a very important component. And I'm so glad that Herald has taken the initiative and the lead today. Also glad that they are going to make a white paper and going to keep a track of this, whether we are going to do this or not. So these are wonderful initiatives which Goa can look at and we as a country can look at. And we also have our role to play in this whole initiative of supporting new age technologies, new age industries, and new age startups.
I am not here to praise the government, but I am there to certainly support an initiative which looks at, for the next 30 years, a program by which Goans Next should be the center. Although I don't much associate with such events which are happening nowadays on the eve of the elections. And it's nice to coin words like Atmanirbhar, Swayambhurna, Vikasit. But as an opposition legislator, I look at this more as a election propaganda with public money. But when Herald does it, because Herald has a history of having fought for our aspiration of Konkani being the official language, gaining statehood. So basically, Herald is by and large about Goinkarpon. And therefore, when Herald does it, I think it's right and proper that we should associate with such type of a activity.
Disruption and innovation, two of the commonest terms. They are used, overused, and abused. They're almost like the word love. Everywhere they are used. Every youth has the word love. How much of it is use or abuse, you know. Similarly are these words. I'll request the three panelists who have a wealth of experience, particularly in our nation's context. On all these, we have three gentlemen here who would be speaking. And I call upon first the gentleman who is revolutionizing one of the fourth industrial revolution emerging technology, that's a blockchain. So he heads the India Blockchain Alliance. A very charming gentleman, Raj Kapoor, for you.
Blockchain is about disruptive technologies creating disruptive products. I've just given you 3-4 of them, and maybe you'll share some more later on. But this is just the bottom of the pyramid, guys. And one Indian guy recently, he's being awarded something in America right now. He won a prize. He's my mentor. He's my mentee. We created a very nice thing called Report to Earn using AI and blockchain. In Report to Earn, as it's the largest citizen project in the world today. As a citizen, I go out, I see accidents, I see people, getting hurt, or people harassing somebody, people throwing stones at dogs, or a wounded dog, something like that, anything. I can now just click a picture, report it, and the entire algorithms are made in such a way it goes to the authorities concerned, and there are accountability now. Nobody can say, "Mujhe to bataya nahi, mujhe to pata nahi, main to yahan ward mein tha hi nahi." It goes directly. It's being done in Nebraska right now. He's in America. I told him, come to India. We will do that here. And you'll be happy to know that last week, Sri Ravi Shankar and his people, her community, have said, we will adopt this app for becoming more responsible citizens. So now that is something we call innovation, and that's business disruption.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good examples, largely in Indian context, a big clap. Because it contributes to the Atmanirbharta, it contributes to Swayam Purnata. One of the slogans of India as a whole and this program is, how do you look at self-sufficiency, self-dependence?
I felt that disruption/innovation has always been there. It's been there from the time we have been documenting history, right? People have crossed barriers, people have defined new tools, new ways of living, new ways of doing things, and things have changed, and that's why we have so many history books, lessons, subjects, interesting stuff. What changed now is three things. The tools have changed, which is primarily governed by technologies, primarily again the semiconductor and information technologies. The second thing which changed is related to that, which is the pace of change, the speed of change, which all of us are trying to grapple with. The discomfort you feel, the dilemma you feel when you are saying, I love Facebook. I know there are, all these, bad things about that, but I love Facebook. The dilemma that you face is because of the pace of change. And, with AI coming in, AI again, AI is something that I feel we have been living, the words AI, we have been living forever with it, right? Childhood, bachpan mein to AI was part of AIR for me, All India Radio, always there, right? During education, AI was about AICTE, governing my life. And as my age goes up and I'm becoming more and more health conscious, I read about, obviously, AIMS, the All India Institute of Medical Science. So this AI thing never left us. It was always there. Just that this is such a high pace of things that we are not able to understand and grapple with, that it creates a little bit of a disruption and a discomfort.
My opinion is, see, first and foremost, I also invest in private markets. And whenever you're investing in private markets, the eventual goal is to maximize on your profits. I know this is something controversial to say, but that's the hard reality. You don't invest just for the impact. You have to ensure, you have to tell your LPs, your GPs, what are my IRRs, what are my returns. That is how investing is done. If I cannot convince my LPs that this is going to be my IRR, I will not get the next round of funding. So at the end of the day, maximizing on profits will happen, but I also concur with what Raj said, that at the end of the day, you have to think of double returns. One could be on the impact side, the other could be on the side of the profits. And I think impact investing is a thriving space and is gaining a lot of prominence in India, in South Asia. And I'm so glad that at least via Global Governance Initiative, we have been closely working with various impact investors and ensuring that youngsters get the opportunity to be part of that ecosystem. The goal is to create an entire ecosystem around it. 1%, 2%, they can't do many things. It has to be an entire ecosystem. And that's what we have been doing. And hopefully, through our venture, through the works that Raj is doing or Ravi is doing, a lot of good could be achieved for the benefit of India.
Good afternoon. This session on regenerative tourism and redefining sustainability. Now, firstly, let me tell you, regenerative tourism is more about regenerative than tourism. Very interestingly, globally, this is a topic which is under discussion, and the central part or the thematic part, or you can say the nucleus of the entire regenerative tourism is community. And the question that is under discussion, or the topic or the theme, is basically the paradigm, not the number. Few years of UNWTO World Tourism Day's theme, it's basically tourism for rural development, tourism for economic development, tourism, inclusive tourism, tourism for gender empowerment. Now these are social issues. You are talking about the SDGs. So the point is how tourism can contribute there. It is the discussion and the future for tourism.
So then in 2015, we started this project called GOA Heritage Walks. And at that time, we had great support from the local communities. Jack here was a member of GOA Heritage Action Group, and we collaborated with them and several other locals who joined on board. But today now what we built over the years is a discovery platform where we connect travelers to local communities through immersive local experiences like heritage walks, culinary journeys, village saunters, nature trails. And we design these experiences where we train local hosts, right? So we work on upskilling local hosts, local storytellers. We call our, we call our hosts local storytellers because they are the ones who are narrating stories of the place. And that these stories that travelers take back with them. Right, so we also thought of, how can we give a traveler a more holistic experience? So we introduced our recommendations on places to stay, shop, and eat. Now, these are recommendations that promote local businesses that align with sustainability.
So I would say, in a net, I would say in a nutshell, income-wise, the local communities, especially along the coastal belt, have seen their income grow up tremendously with tourism. But this has brought its own challenges. A tourist competes for the same resources that a local competes, right? Not everyone can be in the tourism business. You will compete for roads, you will compete for electricity, you will compete for water, you will compete for all other facilities which come in. And I think in a year, Goa gets 1.5 times tourists over that year compared to its population. So it has brought its own challenges. There are issues of drunken driving, there are various other issues coming. So these are the new things that we have to look at, and we have to realize that basically we have to look at how to make tourism less resource intensive and get into a circular economy. So with those remarks, I would like to conclude.
I would rather say, and I'm happy that the tourism department is taking one step back and saying we're talking about regenerative, because regenerative is part of the larger umbrella word of sustainability. We at our company, we take one step back. We speak about being responsible. It's a simple word. Everybody understands what it means. Everything that I do, I try and do it responsibly. So I prefer that word, to all the other, fancy words. But what do I exactly mean by that? So at our company, since we work in the space of nature, wildlife, and communities, we ask ourselves questions. What qualifies us to be called responsible? If my guest at the end of my tour, doesn't go back a little bit well informed, or if it doesn't go back with a little bit of respect for the land and its people, then I have failed as a tourism operator. I think this is very important, so that's my perspective about that.
But what should really be the goal of any good policy, any good action? I think the core has to be people, because if we are there and if we exist, then we create. If we do not even exist, then we just don't exist then, So whether it's technology, whether it's policy, whether it's whatever that we do, I think if that remains the guiding principle, then we have a way forward for us. A good practice is the one that adds value, does not take away. To me, that's what sustainable is. Regenerative, when you've taken away life from somewhere and you again regenerate life, you reignite the place. That to me is regeneration, and we are trying to do that in the coal mines also. So lots and lots of thoughts. I can go on endlessly, Amitava, as you know.
So the basic question that still plagues global economy as a whole is how to get back to the sustainable long run growth is still the big questions in the world economy today as on date. Because if you see that there has been, like if you look at the economic size of the economics as a whole in the global market, it's still to get back to the pre-pandemic level. So pandemic happened 3 years back, but we are still to get back to the pre-pandemic economic size. So we are still figuring, the entire world is still figuring out how we get back to the pre-pandemic stage. So this is one thing, and this has been, there are few more challenges that came up. First, that COVID pandemic came. Then you have Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has a huge impact on the commodity trade. Then in recent years, there is the conflict in Gaza area. And that also had also led to geo-economic fragmentation, particularly in that area. So that also disturbed the flow of commodity across the world. So these are the challenges, and this also led to a fall in the living standards all over the world last 2-3 years. And another problem that was witnessed was the huge inflationary pressure during 2020-21 and 22-22.
In terms of Goa, apart from mineral manufacturing, tourism is the largest. But when I have looked into some of the globally appreciated tourism places, Goa is one of the best, which has got the history with water bodies, beaches, etc. But I think probably there is an opportunity for leveraging it with some of the best happening things in the country, apart from shacks, restaurants, bars, pubs. There could be few more tourist attractive possibilities in the country. I mean, I've seen quite a few, likes of Macau or likes of Sanya in China. Great places. I have seen Sanya in China where they have moved few millions of large trees from one island to the other, physically transported and planted and made the whole city green. So Goa is blessed with all these naturally.
We don't need that.
You don't need that. All you need is a plan and execution. I'm sure the state has done pretty well, but I'm only thinking of few more opportunities where you can attract more talent.
Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is, while both of you all speak in terms of abstract numbers and concepts, I'd like to bring it down to the tangibles. And for me to bring it down to tangibles, I'd look at it in terms of land, water, and its people. Okay? Because these are the core essential elements from which we build and define property and construct futures, and then how we contribute to a global economy. Now, again, I'd like to just touch about the global economy, because when we look at, again, we are part of a larger ecosystem. And now when we look at the larger ecosystem, we are dependent on the US and China property prices, because that defines the resources and the utilization of resources. It defines the minerals and the elements, whether it looks at IT or health or any of those in terms of allied services. And it has a direct impact on India. While the finance minister has pegged us at 6.5 to 7% growth, it's great. Those are still decimal points, okay? But furthermore, post-pandemic, what you've had is a consolidation of supply chains across the globe. And this has led to a singular economy in India, and it's resultant in Goa, and that affects us in a certain way. Now, when we understand Goa, Goa has always been part of the global economic trade historically. Okay, before there was an idea of India, Goa was trading with the east coast of Africa, Mesopotamia, Egypt, all those nations, okay? The first world came searching for us. Columbus found America by mistake. 15 years later, Vasco discovered Calicut, and he was told to go to Goa to negotiate trade before he could trade on any part of the west coast of India. Okay, Goa was a powerful center for trade globally. Post-colonization and the colonial effects of blockade, which were brought about by the British and later the Indian government till 1961, have actually hampered Goa's growth. Okay, and this is historic economics. Okay, so we have to also understand if Goa is going to be part of a global economic trade, how then does Goa reclaim how we existed? And then it has to be geospatial from Goa, not from an outside dependency, but us defining our values in terms of what our core competencies are.
You also mentioned about the water thing. I would like to just highlight you. In Verna also we had a same issue. The water table was going down. Kesarwal stream had almost dried up. You know, but last 5 years what we did, there was a lot of raw water available in Salaulim Dam. And there was a special pipeline we brought to Verna, 30 MLD water storage we created. And now all pharma units are using the raw water. And now from last year, the Kesarwal stream is showing the water. So you can check up that also. The plateau water level has also risen up. So what you are saying, see, industrialization in Goa is fine, but it should be sustainable also. We have to take care of our environment. That is the first priority. And saying all these things, see, when we get people, see, 1 million people we have in Goa, but we cater to almost 10 million people tourists. And that is a huge load on this system. And an amount of waste that is generated because of this, that needs to be properly processed. And you might be seeing what has been happening, the after effects of this.
Goa is the smallest of the states of the Indian Union. And it has its own distinct socio-cultural, economic, whatever you call it, demographic identity. Now, even before our liberation from the Portuguese in 1961, Goans have had the tendency to migrate out, okay? And largely, we have been focused on jobs. So we have been job seekers, unlike, let's say, the Gujaratis or Marwadis who are, we say, businesses in their blood, okay? They are entrepreneurs. Now, it's not so in our case, okay? But we are talking about startups here on this topic, okay? Now, that's entrepreneurship. It's something other than job seekers. Now, there are various reasons why Goans have been migrating out of Goa, okay? There has been gaps between what our people had as skills versus what the industry needed, or there was better, money to be made outside, and so many other things. Now, that has led to the depletion and dilution of this unique identity that Goa has in the whole of India, to the point wherein, a very thin semblance of that identity prevails today. Now, among the various solutions that could be tried in terms of sustaining or retaining and preserving, enhancing this diluting Goan identity, I see startups as one of the key pillars of that solution, wherein it could help Goans create employment, prosperity for themselves, for others, and so on. And hence, ladies and gentlemen, today, I would like to have your thoughts in terms of how your experiences across the world and operating in India and abroad, how those ideas can be adapted and could be contextualized to this unique creature or unique place, our beloved Goa.
When I say it's difficult to be starting off today, what I mean is when I was 18, it was the most beautiful time for a technopreneur to be starting off. Okay. Because the new mediums were emerging. The internet was speeding up, mobile technology was coming up. Today, these mediums are already saturated when you want to do a startup. That we had the opportunities at that point of time, we had the ideas at that point of time. There, we were lacking the exposure. So if I had a startup idea, because I was in Goa and the culture was not very supportive of startup, I did not know a way to take this startup and make it a unicorn. Most of the projects that we have started at that point of time, the same ideas were unicorn, but I was not able to structure it well. So today, when we look at the upcoming wave for technology that is coming up, after a long break, I would say that this would be the most beautiful time to be alive on this side of the planet, which is India. But are we prepared for it as far as Goa is concerned? When I say preparation, is do we have the right exposure? When the ideas would emerge, do we have the right ecosystem? And by ecosystem, I mean the support from the startups around you. For instance, if I want to start a tech product, I need support of IT engineers. I need a culture of advanced technologies, which probably do not exist in Goa today. And I would be blunt enough to say that. We need to probably also welcome the IT industries from outside of Goa coming in here to Goa.
Starting up, promoting entrepreneurship is the need of the hour. And it's a must that should be focus in this sector. Vincent, you spoke about the culture of starting up. We inherently have a culture of either looking for a job or going abroad. So how do we change the culture, Inish? So that's the first question which the government is asking. How do we make sure that today's youngsters are thinking about starting up, thinking about becoming business owners, and thinking about being creative in nature? And there are a lot of initiatives which have been started. Now let's look at the startup journey in three distinct sections. The first section is getting the pipeline of startups or getting people interested in starting up. The second section will be for those people who are already startups and what support the government is intending to provide. And the third is for those people who are looking to scale up.
So I agree with Milind that Goa has changed. Today it's not that easy to get all those kind of things. So for us it worked very well. And since then, in the last 34 years, Goa has changed, things have happened, but I still say Goa is the best place, really speaking, for a startup operation or for any kind of people who want to do something serious in life. Yeah.
If I may interrupt you there, you say that even today, what you just said, you mean even today Goa is a good place for startups too?
Absolutely, I completely, strongly believe in that, yes.
And despite the limitations that Goa has a very small population and we are more of a village state, and you understand the typical challenges of Goa and the Asusega, the attitude that prevails, despite all of that.
But as I said, they have all changed. Today, it's not the same as it was,
It was,
at that time.
But great to hear from you. Sorry to interrupt, but it warms my heart to hear from you that Goa still is a great place for startups to.
I completely believe in that.
India is going to be one of the fastest growing large economy of the world, and by 2047 we are estimated to touch somewhere around 26 trillion. 26 trillion means the per capita income of Indians is expected to be somewhere around $15,000, and that means at today's rate at around 13 lakh rupees. Which means 1.7 billion Indians would be spending that kind of money, which will be one of the highest spending power of the world, will be in India. So look at that consumption, the way it will influence the consumption, it will influence everything that will happen. It's going to create a massive developments, not only in manufacturing sector, but technology and a service sector and creative sector as well. AI and other technologies are going to impact in a big way. The technology is coming in a big way, and technology is finding solutions to the shortages. It's creating now whatever the scarcity into abundance is going to be the focus. What do you foresee? Because that ultimately will also have an impact on Goa. Goa is looking at becoming a tech capital. Unfortunately, the educational ecosystem is very weak in Goa in terms of technology. Though we have BITS and IIT, I myself have seen IIT, I have been on the board for the last 5 years. It needs real engagement with the local ecosystem. So how do you foresee Goa, and what are the skill gaps, and what do we look at the future of skills? Because the future of jobs are going to be different.
But I thought it is, so I kind of coined another thing that just came to my mind, gross domestic chemistry. And the formula for this is CH2, where, which is, C is for calmness, right? To be an entrepreneur, you have to be really calm. And you have to also have, the H2 is happiness, right? Which is also part of the GDH. And the third one is being humble, right? I think it is very important to be humble at the time when you're being able to establish or be an entrepreneur. So I think this, from an opportunity standpoint, Goa has a huge potential, because this is something that has never happened before, and there's a lot of things happening on the technology front. I'm sure We are all looking at what are the skills which are available right now, which are the things which we need to do, what are the things we need to do.
Degree is fine, but what we considered people earlier, a person is great if he has many degrees, if he knows a lot. This mindset has to change. This is a mindset brought in by the British imperialists in our mind. Babu culture. More degrees, can speak a lot, has read many books, is a great wise man. Fine, but for the economy to grow, it is not enough to know. It's more important to apply, to actually do. Padho, lekin karo. So that whole culture, Padna is not an end in itself. Karna is the ultimate purpose. There's no harm in learning beyond degree, that's fine. But degree plus micro credentials of small different skills, blended learning, learning online, offline, on air, all levels, and at your own end, self-learning, lifelong learning, the concept of learning to learn or lifelong learning, these are the skills in the long run that matter. So in conclusion, general domain agnostic skills, domain specific general skills, domain specific niche skills, and moving to smart skills, sustainable skills, and lifelong learning skills. This is what I would like to say.
Right, it's because of that. I don't think that's because of the ecosystem. It's more because of the quality of education that Bangalore is in general able to provide, right? And coming back to Goa, we are not able to, right? I mean, so that way we're at least 2 decades behind. So now I will answer your question, saying that I think technology has a life cycle. So what is being seen
all through the session since morning, what we have heard is skills. No one ever spoke about a degree. No one spoke about formal education. And that showcases the change in the mindset that we need to bring in. As a child, I wanted to be a doctor, medical doctor. No money, so I decided closest possible, become an engineer. Finished engineering, no jobs. Jumped into being a teacher. Went into software development. Then I realized, udhar bhi maza nahi aa raha hai. Became an HR professional. Now look at how life took me through various journeys. Today, kids of today do not really have to face these kind of challenges by exploring, because opportunities exist, and thanks to some of the initiatives that we have, including Swayam Plus that the government has launched, the focus is on skills.
So right now we need CI, which is I understand as creative intelligence. You cannot be a machine. A human is not machine. So creative intelligence is very much required. Second is you need digital intelligence and technology intelligence. Technology is not always all this software and all these things. Even the wheel, when it is first time created, the wheel changed the course of history. So it is also innovation, it is also technology. And the third one, I feel that it is SI, spiritual intelligence. Why spiritual intelligence? Because Met Gallup has done a study with 140 countries, and they came up that young generation, more than 27% feeling already loneliness. Not the older generation. It's a very surprising thing. And spiritual intelligence doesn't mean that you should be religious. In US already there is a movement that I am spiritual but not religious. So it is called SBNR. Now spiritual intelligence gives you the ethical direction and also gives you the power to think beyond yourself, that you are not limited to a certain level of intelligence.
Advertisements in the newspapers, we all look out for fair and lovely, which is a manifestation of our colonial hangover. We need to get rid of this. So our biggest challenge are ourselves, because we do not respect our own spirit. The other challenge for Feni being what it is because many of our, in every business, there are good, the bad, and the ugly. But in our business, in Feni business, there are few bads and ugly who make Feni out of ENA. Now, ENA is not unhealthy, it's a safe alcohol, but it's not Feni. for making money. A lot of our stakeholders go that way. I remember in my young days, when I also wanted to make money, I went to my father and I said, why don't we also take a license to create fame with ENA? I got the biggest convincing reprimand from my father. And I say convincing because he says, everything you do is a reflection of you. May it be your product, what you say. So never compromise on your product because that's a representation of your company, of yourself and your country.
I was invited at the Cannes Film Festival, and there this approach opened doors to many international platforms where my work was loved, appreciated, and adored. Also, where I learned more innovations, transitions, chain in command, ethical, artistic approach, representation of my designs, and culture indulgence.
Innovation and success do not occur in isolation. They thrive in ecosystem. They thrive in ecosystem where ideas are nurtured, partnerships are forged, and assorted perspectives are valued. Events like GOA Next 2024 serve as catalyst for such ecosystem. Let us embrace the spirit of GOA Next 2024 with enthusiasm and determination. Together, let us embark on our collective journey to make the beautiful state of Goa not only future ready, but to ensure a prosperous, sustainable, and inclusive future.
We started the hotel but could not pay off our loans back. After a couple of years, we settled our issues. Took bigger loans to pay off smaller loans that crossed budgets and borders again. The moral of the story is risking is always better than regretting. So I guess, it's worth taking a risk, but it's scary at times. We have taken many risks in business. 99% pays off. It's that 1% that can kill you, and you can die a slow death. Talking about borders, Fisherman's has crossed many borders out of Goa. We have 4 in Goa, 4 out of Goa. By this year end, we should have another 3, so that brings the total of 11. The total outlet should be 11 by this year end. They say that difficult roads often lead to a beautiful destination. Believe me, when we go and look for these places, it sometimes takes a year to demographically check out the location, check out the marketing, check out the incentive of the people that want to eat. And we're a pretty mid-market segment restaurant, so that's why it works. The model works in India. They also say never spend your money before you have earned it. But in hospitality, you build a restaurant or a hotel, and then you want to make money. So that's risky business.
You would realize everyone has time in their life for their priority. If you are not within that list, they do not have time for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Time is a resource, but it depends on the person. If they, for example, I give some work in the class, and some people do it, some people don't. People who do it, they want to do it. People who didn't do it, they would get you an excuse why they didn't do it. Everyone has the same amount of time, 24 hours. Resourceful is very important. Money, you might not have now, but do you have a plan to realize that 2 years down the line, I would have this amount of money? That's called resourcefulness. At this point in time, you should focus on what is your immediate requirement. Let me give you an example. Tomorrow, which year you are in? Second year, right? Now your focus area should be how I move to the third year, number 1. Number 2, side by side, I start building skills that would take me to the next level when I complete my engineering. Now you cannot do anything else besides completing engineering. Can you do anything? Can you join an acting class? Can you join a music class? You have to do this at this point, right? Yes. Focus in clearing this, getting a job. Once you get a job, you start earning, start focusing on your hobbies or whatever you want to do.
Maybe parents have endless supply of money to indulge you and might say, जा सिमरन जी ले अपनी जिंदगी और in case of मेरी संजय जा संजय जी ले अपनी जिंदगी, but it has to be, it will be finite, right? So as a founder, when you are doing this, would you have spoken to 50 customers to figure out whether this is going to be bought by somebody? And please try and see if you can get the 50 nastiest people in the world who will be very brutal with their feedback, right? That doesn't mean you have to get discouraged with their feedback, but everybody is going to be saying tu ghar chale ja, tu dhanda kyun khola hai. But if 49 out of 50 people are saying why is this, you better take some extract out of why this proposition is not really connecting with people who incidentally you are planning to make them pay for your product, right? So it's a good test. What we generally say is, before incorporation, reverse that. Talk to 5 customers, because I'm presuming by that time you've had a product market fit. Still talk to 5 customers, but talk to 50 potential investors. Talk is talk up. मैंने उसको मेल भेजा, reply नहीं आया, doesn't count. Right? Talk is a WhatsApp, a telecon, a Zoom, a Gmail. Talk to 50 investors. And if it means that 50 investors is not getting checkboxed, something is wrong, something is not resonating with the person who's ready to cut a check. Right? If the 3rd, 5th and the 7th guys are very excited, that still doesn't mean you should not be talking to the remaining 45 guys. Somebody might say this is so simple, ये हो जाएगा, कर सकते हैं. The most successful founders do this, the less successful founders don't do it. That's the only difference.
Social media is one of the biggest one today. Any brand that you see will definitely either have an Instagram account, a LinkedIn account, or Twitter account, depending on where their target audience is. So if I'm communicating with, if my customer segment is in between 15 to say 20 years old, I won't be communicating anything on LinkedIn to them, right? Because then they're not there. I'll probably choose Instagram as my communication channel, or maybe TikTok, or any new thing I might not know about their generation. So that's what we'll choose. So it's very, very important to keep in mind, always, whenever you're making a business model, who am I answering this for, right? If I'm deciding the channels, what should be my main focus point is that I should know who my customers are and where they are. So if I'm looking, say, for a 30-year-old, if I go back to the biscuit example, if I'm looking for a 30-year-old person who's health conscious and who wants to make healthy choices, maybe I can go to a marketplace, or maybe sell them through Amazon or Flipkart rather than a TikTok or something, because they might not even have an account there. So channels become very, very important.